Welcome to another episode of Future Experience, the podcast where we explore iconic figures and moments in entertainment history. I'm your host, Mark, and today we're diving into the life and legacy of one of the most fascinating and unforgettable stars Hollywood has ever seen, Marilyn Monroe. To help us unravel the complexities of Marilyn's career and life, I'm thrilled to be joined by a special guest, a seasoned film historian and expert on Hollywood's golden age. Please welcome Anna Morrison.
Hi, Mark. It's great to be here. I've been studying Hollywood history for quite a long time, and Marilyn Monroe has always been one of the most intriguing figures in cinema for me.
Thank you for being here, Anna. I think our listeners would love to know, what first drew you to Marilyn Monroe? Why does she stand out in the history of film for you?
Well, Mark, Marilyn was truly a phenomenon. She wasn't just an actress or a symbol of beauty. She was an entire cultural moment. What drew me to her initially was her ability to captivate audiences with such a wide range of emotions. On one hand, she was the ultimate blonde bombshell, but on the other hand, she had a deep vulnerability that made her performances timeless. You see that in films like Some Like It Hot, The 7-Year Itch, and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. She balanced comedy and tragedy so effortlessly.
Yeah. It's fascinating how she could switch between being playful and seductive to showing real emotion. A lot of people think of her just as the blonde beauty, but there was so much more to her. Would you say she's often underestimated as an actress?
Absolutely, and that's one of the biggest misconceptions about her. She was often typecast into roles that highlighted her physical appearance, but when you dig into her filmography, you'll find depth. Take Bus Stop, for example. Marilyn portrayed Cherie, a character with so much fragility, and it's one of her most emotionally raw performances. She wasn't just playing a role, she was giving herself to it. You can feel the authenticity in her performance.
It's true, her performance in Bus Stop was really something special. But aside from her acting, Marilyn had such a huge cultural impact too. What do you think contributed to her becoming such an icon?
She was the face of Hollywood's golden age, but at the same time, there was the sense that she was always searching for something more, whether it was respect as an actress or even just happiness. And that's something that resonated with people. Her story is almost Shakespearean in its tragedy.
Yeah, it's almost like she became larger than life, even beyond her acting. Her personal struggles and her public image seem to feed into each other. Do you think that's part of why she's still so beloved today?
Definitely. Her struggles made her relatable in a way that many stars of her era weren't. She wasn't perfect, far from it. And that made her human. People could connect with her imperfections. Even now, decades after her death, she still symbolizes something more than just a starlet. She represents dreams, fame, vulnerability, and ambition all wrapped into one.
And speaking of her personal life, what do you think about the way the media portrayed her back then? Was it fair to her?
Oh, no, not at all. The media was brutal, and it often treated her as a commodity rather than a person. The focus was almost always on her looks and her relationships rather than her talent. It's heartbreaking to think how much pressure she must have been under, constantly being scrutinized. I think that had a huge impact on her mental health, which was already fragile.
It's tragic, really. But despite all of that, her legacy has endured. What do you think is Marilyn Monroe's greatest contribution to cinema?
Her greatest contribution, I think, was the way she broke down barriers for women in Hollywood. She fought hard to get control over her career. Many people don't realize that she co-founded her own production company, Marilyn Monroe Productions, which was groundbreaking for a woman in that era. She was trying to take control of her image and her work in a time when the studio system was very restrictive. That's a legacy that has inspired countless actresses since.
That's such a powerful aspect of her legacy. She wasn't just a passive player in the Hollywood system, she was actively trying to change it.
Exactly. And she succeeded in many ways, even though she was taken from us too soon. Her films, her image, and her personal fight for autonomy have left an indelible mark on the industry.
Before we wrap up, I have to ask, if you had to pick your favorite Marilyn Monroe performance, which one would it be?
Oh, that's a tough one. But I'd have to go with Some Like It Hot. It's a classic for a reason. She was so naturally funny in that role, and her timing was impeccable. Plus, you could see how much joy she brought to the screen. It's a performance that still makes people laugh today.
That's a great pick. Thank you so much for joining us today, Anna. This conversation has been amazing, and I'm sure our listeners learned so much more about the real Marilyn Monroe.
Thank you for having me, Mark. It was a pleasure to talk about such an iconic figure.
And that's it for today's episode of Future Experience. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the life and legacy of Marilyn Monroe. As always, feel free to share your thoughts on social media and let us know your favorite Marilyn Monroe moments. Until next time, this is Mark, signing off.